Hey, this is Gordon for Inspiration Touch, and today we're gonna work on part 2 of the FlameThrower tutorial, in which we're gonna do unwrapping in 3ds Max and texturing in Substance Painter. And thank you for my Patreon for making this video possible. And let's just do it. Alright, here we are. So this is gonna be the beginning of unwrapping the FlameThrower that we worked on previously, and there are a lot of things we can do here and a lot of techniques that we can implement here to make this happen. But since this is gonna be probably taking a lot more time than it would take if we do actually unwrap it casually, we will try to implement and use something that gives us more control over the unwrapping process. So here we are, and we're trying actually to actually cut the seams ourselves. There are some pretty good tools in 3ds Max to help us do this, and as you can see here, there are we are in the process of actually cutting out the pieces that actually don't work with or actually are not part of the big container right there. So we're gonna try to separate it and actually make all the pieces flat separately. So this is something easy to do in theory, but in practice it takes a little bit of time, since it is not automatic like we used to do, which is trying to make everything flat and then attach it all together. So this actually needs a little bit of thinking actually, and demands from us to be intelligent about where exactly are we gonna cut the seams and stuff. But overall, it's not something difficult to do if you are used to unwrap things in 3ds Max or actually any other 3D package, because it is pretty much the same in principle. So here we are, and I'm actually trying to push the pieces that I unwrapped out of the box to see exactly what I am doing, and I'm actually being left with the small pieces on the side, and those are not gonna be a big of deal, even though that you can see that there are a lot of pieces being thrown randomly, and it seems like it is being shattered to a lot of separate pieces. It's not going to be big of a deal, because we will be able to bring them back together and attach them together. Keep holding Shift S from the keyboard. This is actually the shortcut I have in my 3ds Max user interface file that I stored. And if you don't have that, you can just create your own shortcuts for whatever part or 3ds Max you want to change the shortcuts in. And it's not that hard actually, and it gives you a lot of control over the creative process, and it makes you, and it helps you to move faster and gain some time if you are actually doing these things a lot. And sometimes, to be honest, the unwrapping process can take up to 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how complex the thing is. Alright, so if you have a lot of broken pieces, you've got to try to make them whole again, and try to attach them. In my case, it's Shift S, which is the shortcut to attach pieces that actually belong to the same piece. And as you can see here, there is a mess because I literally forgot to actually create a seams in that place. So now I'm trying to do it the old method, break it then bring it back together. Alright, now I'm trying to actually straighten these vertices. I'm trying to make them straight because sometimes we have to do this in order to reduce the number of problems we're gonna face later in baking our maps. This is gonna actually give us better bacon, especially for normal maps. And I actually created a video explaining all the details and all the techniques I use in order to unwrap my models in 3ds Max. If you're interested, it's not it's a video that I created a few weeks ago. And to be honest, this video about unwrapping made me think about the process of unwrapping I follow and all the stuff I learned over the years. And it's not something, it's not that big of a deal, but it's actually a collection of the do's and don'ts of unwrapping that I've learned through experience and through the tips that that people shared with me, and the tips that I found online. So now, as you can see here, I'm trying to apply the checker texture to see whether we have any errors or not. So if we have any errors, we should see some weird results um, like the some distortions. Like we can see that the checker texture is going to bend, and it's not going to be straight in certain areas. This is a strong indication that there is something wrong with our unwrapping. So here we are trying to jump to work on a different piece. So we will try to break it apart like this and see if this is going to work. If it is going to work, then we're going to go for it. If it's not going to work, we'll try a different method. And to be honest, this piece here has a lot. It has a lot of separate pieces that we need to take care of. It's not going to be a big of deal though, but we need to be aware of that. So here we are. This is the main piece. We'll take it out of the way, and we will also take out of the way the pieces that we think are originally came flat out and are actually pieces that they're not gonna actually create any problems for us in the future. And the rest are gonna be the pieces that we will try to attach together or break or whatever in order to make them fit properly with the rest of the islands that we worked on previously. Okay, here we are trying uh, to attach all the pieces that we didn't actually get unwrapped for us automatically from the start. So there is a lot of manual work that is involved in the process of unwrapping, and you should always expect to do some work. Even though there are some tools that can that actually allow us to manage to avoid some of the major difficulties within wrapping. Even though there are some tools that can do this for us, there is a lot of work, manual work that we need to manage to do ourselves. All right, sometimes to gain some space, you need to actually put the smaller pieces inside bigger pieces, especially and it is a must actually to do this when you have, for example, circular like tubes and stuff, circular shapes and rectangles sometimes, and they are actually large in when it comes to the surface they cover, but in the on the inside they are empty. You need to put the smaller things inside in order to actually gain some space and be a little bit smarter about the process of unwrapping. And right now I'm trying actually to figure out what are the biggest pieces that we need to work on first before the rest in order to clear out actually the biggest pieces, which is a good thing in my opinion, because I want to actually work on the major pieces, and then I'll be left with the small details, small pieces that are probably not gonna be a big of a deal. Alright, so this is the most and the biggest piece in here. I guess this is gonna be a little bit of trouble, so bear with me here because you might see me doing things, repeat things and try to find the best way to do this, because we'll try a few things before we end up with what we really want. And I guess, to be honest, there is a good chance that we will do this manually. As you can see here, I'm trying to cut some of the seams here, and it's not that hard, but I'm trying actually to actually tell Max where where the biggest islands should take place. And actually this piece is actually quite complicated, because all the pieces, there are 3 or 4 pieces welded together, which actually makes it a little bit hard for automatic unwrapping. That's why I'm trying to clear things and try to uh, actually work or unwrap this piece in smaller chunks. And this is I find this to be better, because most of the time if I don't do this, it's gonna be spent actually figuring out which piece is which, and where for example where where this small piece is gonna fit and how to attach it and stuff. So Breaking it a little bit is gonna work for me in this case, I believe. And we will take care, of course. We'll take care of the small pieces. For example, when it comes to these holes here, there are actually the borders and the ceilings, let's just say, of these holes, and these little surfaces that we created previously are gonna be a little bit annoying, so we will try to cut them out before we do anything else. Okay, so after we did this, let's try to see what else can we do. Okay, so as you can see here, this is working for us much better, and we are probably seeing we're probably able to see some good results here because it's um it's actually reducing the amount of work, and most importantly, the intellectual work that we need to do in order to figure out how to do this if we actually just take it as one piece. And I guess it's gonna be much difficult if we take the first approach, which is trying to bite it all at once. It's not that hard, but it's a little bit confusing. And actually, to be honest, I forgot to apply smoothing groups before I start unwrapping, and I guess if I did this, it could have been a lot easier because usually the UV editor actually tries to cut the piece according to smoothing groups, and there's a lot of logic behind this because smoothing groups are and normal maps and UVs have a strong correlation, and 3ds Max knows that actually, so they probably, I think they did it purposefully, and it works most of the time, and it makes the process of unwrapping a lot easier because smoothing groups, sometimes when you auto smooth things, they don't actually go the way you want to. So doing this manually becomes the only option you have. And when you manually create smoothing groups, it actually changes the how the web actually how your actually your elements or 3D model is gonna be unwrapped according to the UV editor. So you are basically making it easier for the UV editor and for the UV unwrap modifier to know where it should cut and how it should unwrap your model automatically the first time. And of course, it's not going to get it right the first time because it's not human, and it's far away from knowing exactly how it should work properly. So this is probably going to reduce the amount of work that you're gonna do later on. It's not gonna do it for you, of course. Okay, and here things are a little bit messy. As you can see here, there are a lot of pieces, and don't get confused because this is something normal. I have seen much difficult and complicated and messy UV templates that you will never be able to accomplish or manage to create or successfully unwrap these kind of models in a million years if this is something that looks complicated to you. And I would say that it comes with experience. If you manage successfully to unwrap something that is going to be simple or intermediate, you're going to level up your skills. And one day you're going to be able to unwrap and create and texture and model complex things that actually will right now will sound like it's out of this world. And it's something that comes with practice, to be honest. It's not something that you actually do the right time, the right do it's not something that you do right the first time, because it's all down to practice. Me myself, if I take a look at the stuff I modeled, I unwrapped, and I textured the last year, I will find it to be very actually I will not like it, to be honest, because I myself, I am learning new stuff all the time. I am practicing, I am learning as well. Don't think I am actually I reach a point where I know everything, because the field we are working in is actually growing so fast, so freaking fast. The actually, especially in texturing these, in these, in the last years, changed completely. The game is changing so freaking fast. For example, in before 2012, 13, and stuff, um, in the old days in 2008, 7, and around these years, actually, for example, let's talk about texturing. It was almost all of it done professionally. I'm talking with Photoshop, and some companies work with Mari and Quixel, and some of the these are some of the big texturing packages out there. But for the most part, texturing was done inside Photoshop, which is insane to look back at it right now, because with Substance Painter, which is actually dominating the texturing, the texturing art in the CG and the game industry these years. It's amazing to look back at it, and to see the growth. And actually, most of the educational content online about texturing and Photoshop and stuff is actually overrated right now. It's next to useless, because Substance Painter throws them all to the garbage. It is so powerful, it's easy, it's convenient, it's cheap, and it's powerful indeed. This is how fast the actually the knowledge you had probably 5 years ago when it comes to texturing, or I would say less than 10 years, more than actually 7 or 8 years ago, is obsolete these days, because the industry is moving so fast. New tools are being developed, new techniques, new stuff, softwares are growing fast, updates. So in short, the 3D industry is taking big leaps. If you go back to 20 years ago, it's like enormous. It's an enormous jump. To be honest, it is something that cannot be believed how much the computer graphics industry has grown in the last 20 years. It's crazy. And if you go back further, I was actually I'm going to actually release a video, or I don't know, maybe I'm gonna release this video first, or the or that video that I am going to talk about right now. But in the process of doing research, about it. The video is gonna be titled along the lines of 3ds Max versions and stuff, the history of 3ds Max's versions. I was doing some research, and it was astonishing to me how little content there is online about the beginning of 3ds Max and the early versions, and even back to 2005 version. It's so little content because the amount of content that was created in the last decade is overwhelming what was back then, and the content was so weak and so scarce, like forums and stuff, blogs, no videos, stupid courses that don't actually deliver high value, and either they were not that useful, or they were actually expensive and created by professional artists, that and these courses were actually aimed for professional people who work in the industry, so it was a little bit difficult to manage to learn from it. And free content was next to none, was next to nothing. So I lost my train of thought actually. Was what I was trying to talk about is actually yeah, the amount of growth. Actually, 3ds Max was created. The first version was called 3D Studio, created back in 1990, and the prototype was, or actually the let's just say quote unquote 3D Studio beta. Actually, they were working and trying to develop prototype in 1988, and then they released the first version in 1990. It was called 3D Studio 1, and it wasn't even on Windows. It was operating on MS-DOS, and that system actually is so old, like Stone Ages compared to what we have today. So Windows wasn't even invented back then. And then in 1996, it was actually moved to the Windows NT platform. And the in the old days, I was surprised in kind of multiple forms of surprise. It's like the interface and the tools and the main actually 3ds Max didn't change so much over the years, but it changed enormously in the same time. It didn't change, for example, when it comes to the names of the functions and the modifiers, and the interface didn't change enormously, but what it can do changed astronomically. I was actually basically shocked when I looked at some of the old versions of 3ds Max Live. Even the versions that that were created for MS-DOS have the same modifiers and the same tools that actually exist in the late versions of 3ds Max, and it is such an enormous leap when it comes to what you can do, and the and what it takes to keep up with the standards of the CG industry nowadays. It is, you need to learn new stuff all the time. I hope that wasn't a boring lesson of history for you guys. And it's very important to know, to take a look back and to appreciate what we have today, because back then it was so expensive, it was so stupid. It actually can't do some the amazing things we can do today. It was hard because lack of the resources, and lack of the knowledge, basic knowledge that is gonna help you learn. And the people who were doing it were actually professionals, so they don't have the time to teach you. and schools weren't that popular back then, it was difficult. And the best of it all, the knowledge back then that you could have learned back then is obsolete right now. So you need to keep up. Okay, so now we actually reached the point in the unwrapping process. We reached a point where we are working on some of the smaller pieces, and it is basically the same thing. You just need to keep breaking and attaching stuff and make them flat over the time and over the process until you get done with it. Okay, this one here is gonna be a little bit tricky, so we'll try to do it manually. So we'll see. Probably we will not need to do this manually. Let's just see. Okay, we will go with actually some of the old techniques that we use all the time, and it's working properly. Um, we don't have to do anything to make things better. It is just easy and it is straightforward. So here is something important to mention, which is actually try to hide your seams. Don't cut your seams in obvious places. For example, try to hide them and put them underneath, and where actually the camera is not gonna see what's going on. All right, and I will always try to reduce the or change the scale of the islands to match the checker material I have on the other pieces. All right, so we'll try to make these pieces a little bit flat and straight. Let's just say. I hope you can follow me through these long videos because, or if you don't want to listen to me talking and actually you have the basic knowledge of unwrapping and stuff, and you actually you are actually trying to learn some finer details about my process, you can just speed things up. It always works most of the time. And if you actually find something interesting and something that you find intriguing, or something that you didn't know how to do, you can just bring it back to normal speed. I didn't actually mention what you're gonna need to do. Actually, I should have mentioned that you need to speed the video up to double speed or something. And if you find something difficult or something new to you or something that you didn't understand, you just bring it back to normal speed and try to understand it. Or correct me if I am doing something wrong. I would like to hear some feedback from you guys, because in my tutorials I don't see a lot of feedback, a lot of comments. We don't see a lot of interactions, and this is something. This is actually something that is a little lacking, and something that I want more of, because if you see me in the comment section, I'm trying to be passionate. I'm trying to connect with people. I'm trying to connect with you guys and give you uh, good feedback. I am all the time trying to give you a reply longer than your comment, to show you that I care, and to keep you engaged, basically. Because I believe that um, what brings us here together is a common interest. It's um, it's a common interest, and also a shared belief, because we are here to learn, and we are here because we believe that I sound like Morpheus from the from the Matrix. He's starting to believe. That was a big thing back then in 1999. It was a great movie, by the way. We are here because we believe we will grow as artists and learn more skills and become better and do some things and create some things that are going to be amazing, that are going to be fulfilling for us personally, and it will actually make people um, realize how good we are first, because this is incredibly important if you want to be if you want to get employed, if you want to find a job or something, or if you want to actually um, get some freelance gigs, or just to create an educational business or something. This is important. Um, Actually, you need to get some attention. And me myself in my YouTube channel, I get I get some people's attention, which is a good thing. I'm trying to make and take this channel to the next level, and give me some time, guys, because um, this thing I'm doing here is a side thing. I'm trying to make it something big, but it takes time. I'm trying to invest. It's the time and the effort and what I'm putting here is completely disproportional to the return I'm getting. It's like probably 100 to 1. I'm getting almost obviously and absolutely less than 5% return on my investment. But I believe that but I believe that I'm doing something right here, and I'm doing something good for you, and I am helping you to learn. I'm sharing my experience. I'm getting actually some attention from people who need help, whether it be personal help, work, or something. And I actually get some. I've got some people who are actually passionate about 3D, and passionate about my tutorials and stuff, and they are supporting me on Patreon, which is a great thing. And I am working actually to develop myself on that platform, because I see a lot of potential in it, not just for what people can do for me, but the most important thing is what I can do for these people who are really serious and about this, and they want and then they actually invest their money and actually put their money where their mouth is when they support me, and in order to make them better and help them grow. Because I believe also that the value I'm gonna give you if you become a Patreon is also disproportional to what you gave me, and it's always appreciated. But I believe that I can give you more. This is why you are following me now on YouTube, and you probably should follow me on Patreon because I share a lot of valuable content like my models, the low poly version, the high poly version, all the maps I create here. It's actually all the things I do here, I share there on Patreon. And I will try to involve and share more things over time because I am trying to test things, and I'm trying to actually figure out what works and what doesn't. Okay, this piece here is a little bit of a nightmare. So uh, we will we will try things over here. Um, uh, this piece, to be honest, here made me think about my skills in rapping. It actually made me very conscious about the process. So I started over again. It challenged me, this piece here. Even though it's simple, there isn't something complicated about it. But when I find myself doing the same thing for the second time, there must be something. There must be something that is not working properly, and I need to figure it out. Um, what I found the most, or the difficult, little bit difficult to unwrap, is spheres, and because you need to sometimes the optimal way to unwrap spheres is actually to cut it in half and make the two hemispheres flat. But when it is attached to other surfaces, it becomes a little bit interesting. And it makes you a little bit conscious about the process, and it should actually get you to a place where you start thinking about how to implement some good skills and some good techniques in order to get it right. Because I believe in 3D things look similar, but sometimes different models give you different situations, and you need to think about them in order to make things right. But don't worry about it. Over time, you will actually integrate 3ds Max's tools in your mind, and it's going to become a lot easier. sometimes the tools that sometimes help us get things better actually hinder our progress. And to be honest, for example, let's just say the relax tool. Sometimes it's of great help, and sometimes it messes things up, and sometimes we need to use the peel mode tool. I No, I should say the actually the fast peel tool. The peel mode is actually a way of unwrapping um, surfaces before you get inside the UV editor. Alright, things are getting repetitive, so um, it's it's there isn't so much things to say here. So I hope you can appreciate the silence. And of course, you need to learn how to organize uh, the pieces that you unwrap. It's a very important thing because it's gonna make things a lot better when you reach the stage of packing your UVs. It's um it's a good thing actually to learn to organize yourself and your work. It's gonna make things easier, faster, and look professional. So now we are being left with some small pieces that we need to take care of. They're not difficult because they are almost primitive, actually primitive objects. Okay, I guess we reach a point where we're gonna finish unwrapping all these pieces. This one here, to be honest, this flamethrower is actually uh, it's not complicated. It had only one piece that was a little bit challenging, and if you are used to unwrapping, it's not gonna be a big deal. And actually, the results that you're gonna get in the process of texturing are gonna reward you if you do the unwrapping right. So after we complete unwrapping all the pieces, it's the time to attach them all together in order to do pack them in order to pack them in one place, which is gonna be that rectangle. All right, so to be honest, there are some pieces that I don't know where they are. So probably there are some pieces that were not part of the original design of this one here, and we'll figure out where the hell are they. Probably there are some pieces that we don't really need. Okay, let's see. Alright, so this is one of them. We don't really need that. And then where's the other one? Okay, here it is. So we don't really need this. So that was actually a piece that we created in order to help us do something else. So we don't need it right now. Okay, I believe now it's time to open the UV editor and try to figure out a way in order to put things in place. Okay, they are scattered all over the place, and as you can see here, it is time now to put them in one place, and this is very important. I like this process. I like it very much because it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You need to find two or three things. You need to maximize the size of these pieces, and you're gonna fit them inside this rectangle. So the second thing, you don't want to leave a lot of empty spaces because it's not gonna look good. And the second reason why you don't want to leave a lot of empty pieces, a lot of empty spaces, is because you want to use most of the UV space in order to get good resolution on your textures. And there are a few things that we will explain as we go. All right, so usually what I do usually is try to put the big pieces inside first because the big pieces are enormous and they take most of the space. So um, trying to start with the elephants is important since the small pieces are gonna be manageable when it comes to putting them or finding a place for them that is gonna be appropriate because they can actually be put anywhere we want since they are small. One tip here I want to say is you want to be smart about this. Don't get too stupid when it comes to packing your. I believe your UVs. I believe that um, this is a beautiful art. You want to get something beautiful and shows your experience and gives you some sense of satisfaction because this is a very important part of your work and it's going to actually influence a lot of what comes next, which is texturing, and texturing is definitely something extremely important. And if you are working in a pipeline and there are some people that are gonna come next to you and work on what you've done or what you created, you better create something that is gonna be easier for them to deal with. Even if the next person that is going to work on it is you, you don't want to make things harder for you in the future. You want to make it easier and easier. Work hard now and suffer less later. It's a beautiful art, the art of unwrapping. All right, we are almost done with unwrapping. We'll try to put the small pieces in the empty spaces, and I could have worked on it further and extended and expanded some of the pieces in order to use the space that we have here better. But for the uh, for the lack of time and for the educational purposes, we're trying to actually do our best to keep things simple and understandable. All right, so this is what we've got for now for unwrapping, and let's jump to do some texturing. So here we are in a Substance Painter. So this is almost the final result we will get, and right now we will try to open a new create a new file. So we will load the low poly and we'll set the resolution 2K by 2K, and we'll open our low poly model that we create in 3ds Max. I hope you know how to import and export models. So we will work first of all on the baking of the normal map and the ambient occlusion map, and we will load the high poly version of our FlameThrower, and we'll of course go by mesh name. The anti-aliasing is gonna be for now we'll go with none, and when it comes to the naming convention of the high poly and low poly, we're gonna go with HP and LP. This is very important because Substance Painter will bake the high poly on top of the low poly according to the naming convention. We can change some of the parameters here, but for the sake of explanation and for the sake of keeping things simple, we'll bake straight ahead. And as you can see here, this is a decent result. This is just a test, and it's okay so far. It's good somehow, but I usually go with a lot more when it comes to the parameters that I will get. Of course, here this is very important. The ID, you're gonna go with random. Otherwise, you're not gonna see good things going on. So as we bake all our maps, I'm making this look or seem simple, but it is actually not. It's actually not that simple. You're gonna train yourself to bake a good normal maps and other maps as well. So I will apply this material, smart material from the smart materials that we already have in there. Um, this is gonna be simple in terms of texturing. It's not gonna be something that impressive. But the work we've done before, the preparation, the UV unwrapping, and the work we've done in 3ds Max, all that work, and the baking, a good baking in Substance Painter, is what is gonna help us to get good results here. And by the way, Substance Painter is pretty powerful in terms of texturing. It's gonna give you enormously good results within a few minutes. And if you are used to do work in it, it's gonna be extremely easy. Actually, the ROI, the return on investment is enormous. Actually, Substance Painter is changing the rules of the game. It's easy, and it gets you, and it generates good results. And also, it also depends on what you're working on. If you're working on something complicated, it might take you a few hours to complete, but it is worth it. So here I'm trying to apply this other metal texture on top. It's like a chemical reaction of that first basic material that we used. Now we will add a mask in order to add some generators. We'll go with edgeware or something, or maybe dirt. Dirt is effective is very effective in these situations. We'll try to keep um these effects at a minimum in order to don't in order for us to avoid overdoing it, because it's very easy to put all these effects and all these natural effects and time effects on our model, but the aim here and the goal here is to try to make something realistic, something that can look real when someone else is looking at it, when someone else is looking at it with his eyes, someone else's eyes that actually is detached from our work, is actually going to be very important to judge how how well we how well we actually respected how well we respected um, the laws of nature in terms of realism. Okay, I'm trying here to actually separate the base color of the metal with the base. It's kind of making a contrast between the base color of the metal and the base color of the deterioration effect, which is the wear effect, or the and this can be obvious when we use right now the wear generator. It's all over the corners, and we better use something that is gonna be distinguishable when we look at it. As you can see here, I believe I made it look even better than the original texturing I've done before. Explain it to you before actually doing it here. What's so good about Substance Painter is the fact that it is parametric. It's procedural, and it's all you do is change parameters and change values. to actually get what you want. That's why it's powerful and easy and effective. So, so this is it, guys. I hope you learned something. If you did, please share this video with friends, and I will see you in the next one.